Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
Are you feeling good?
Feeling great.
It's for us right now as we record this. Are we officially in the dog days of summer? Is that what this is now? I feel like we're here.
What are the dog days of summer?
Well,
I've heard that expression, but I'm not really sure what it means.
I think it's the end of summer when you realize I've done all the stuff that I really wanted to do, and now all that's left is heat and the things I don't want to do. And you just sort of always tired and exhausted, and the kids are bored and are ready to go to school. I'm on Facebook the other day, and friends in Arizona are already, their kids are back in school now. We've hit that where that period.
Some people are back, right?
Yeah, people have moved on with their lives, and I'm starting to get a little jealous. But that leads us to our topic today, which is that one last project. Get that one project done before summer ends. It feels like the constraints around the dog days of summer, for me at least, this is a great reminder. Because, goodness, it's been a steamer the last week or so here.
It has,
oh.
Yeah. Do you guys have a lot of smoke up in Portland?
Yeah.
We are getting a lot of smoke, too. So what would be a nice, sunny, blue sky day is a really nice, muggy, smoggy looking day.
Yeah, right. It's gross and hot and just dirty. You always feel kind of greasy. At the end of the day, you sweat and you've got smoke and stuff all over, grit all over. Yeah. We're really disgusting people is what we're trying to say. We're just horrible, disgusting people in the Northwest right this time of year. Don't come here. It's not any fun.
It's not real pretty right now.
No. Before we jump into our get one project done before summer ends talk, head over to takecontroladhd.com, get to know us a little bit better. We'd love to have you listen to the show right there on the website. You can subscribe to the mailing list and make sure that you don't miss a single episode, or you can find us in your favorite podcast app of choice. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD, and call us, leave us a voicemail at 503-664-4ADD to get your thoughts on this show. And of course, 5-star reviews in iTunes and Apple Podcasts and any podcast app with a directory, frankly. Those recommendations really help surface this podcast for others who are looking for support with their own ADHD. So you're paying it forward by dropping us a kind review. We sure appreciate it. And we've been getting some great reviews in iTunes, and you can tell people are hearing that because there's just writing very short little, essentially thumbs up notes in iTunes. Just 5 stars, keep on keeping on. 5 stars, you're doing great. Like, it's really nice.
Thank you.
Every time I see that, I just
support.
Smile so big. It's great. So we really appreciate that.
It's great.
We have a little bit of follow-up, right?
Yes. On the transition topic.
So this was an email that came in from Melissa. We sure appreciate you writing us, Melissa. And you said some really nice things. And as much as I really want to read just you saying nice things, I'm going to get right to your question. You tell us about your son. Your son is about to enter first grade at the end of the month. Yesterday, I found out that the school my son attended last year has denied him attending this year. The school was not his original designated school based on where we live. I had to request transfer to coincide with his before and after care. So now I feel as though I'm in a free fall scramble to get our affairs in order before school starts in 3 weeks. My biggest dilemma is how to help my ADHD, he's also on the autism spectrum, son positively transition to this new experience when I break the news to him that he will not be moving into first grade with the friends that he made in kindergarten or the friends he's made over the last 3 years at his current before or after care. I'm afraid if I do not approach this appropriately, that we will have lost all of the ground we have gained in working on his ADHD and the positive behaviors we have begun to cultivate. I would love to know if you have any tips or tricks for a positive transition for self and families, especially when it is an unforeseen and unwelcome transition. Where would you like to start unpacking this one?
Before we actually hit the record button, you and I had a little bit of a conversation around this, and I definitely want you to share with the audience and with Melissa what you had to say. But one of the things when you were reading it, and I was listening to you read it, that kind of popped out is she said, I'm afraid if I do not approach this appropriately, that we will have lost all of the ground. And as a coach, that's a limiting belief that I want to bring to her attention, that the fear is very valid. Mm-hmm. definitely understand where that's coming from, especially under the circumstances that she's in with her son. But I would want her to be aware of that and just know that not everything's going to be lost, and that he is still young, and that there's still a lot of hope. So I just want her to see that it's not all or nothing. And then I'd like you to share kind of what your thoughts were too.
Definitely. I want to preface this by saying we don't generally work with kids. And,
right. We don't. Right.
That's not a thing we're accustomed to doing. So I think, at a minimum, if this is something that you're really struggling with sort of a barrier, you're kind of feeling like you have to cross that working with a professional, a therapist who actually works with kids is definitely your best bet. Right.
Absolutely. Especially with them being on the autism spectrum as well. Right.
I just had this observation, and I just finished a project on that I may have mentioned on the show about a delightful young man named Rory and his journey. He's living with Down syndrome and autism, and has faced a lot of these struggles, and he's nonverbal, pretty severely compromised there, but an enormous amount of charisma and love, and as a kid, I think the thing that I learned from his family is that kids are super resilient, even when they are on the autism spectrum and living with Downs, that the rage and frustration and fear that comes in with changing changing environments like this, it may be sort of exacerbated and magnified by his behavioral conditions and psychosocial conditions, but it tends to be fairly short because kids are resilient. And in the case of this young man, Rory, he's made a number of transitions and has been able to get over it. It was hard. Those days, the early days were hard, but eventually he got over it and moved through it. And you learn, if you're willing and open to it, you learn that in fact, all of the great work that you did in the last 3 years actually is what is going to help you make this transition. And it's going to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm losing ground. But really what you're doing is you're facing a new transition, equipped with the training and development that you've done as a family to face exactly this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. This is why you do this, is to run into these situations head on and face them without fear and face them knowing that you've done everything you can so far. You're going to learn some lessons. It's going to be hard, and that's okay because you'll be a different person on the other side of it, and your family will be different on the other side of it, having learned to go through this transition to prepare you for the next one, because there always going to be a next one.
Right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Very well said.
So I would love to, if it's okay, I'd love to share in the show notes a link to this video that I did on Rory.
Yes, it was a great video. I loved it.
Thank you.
Good. Very inspiring.
Well, it delights me. This kid, I just see the smile on his face, just delights me. And so I'll put this in the show notes and post on Facebook. And if you're interested as a supplemental, it's pretty short. It's about 15 minutes. So I hope, Melissa, that it can show you that, here's a kid who's actually making the transition from middle school to high school for the very first time, and the team that came to support him to make that transition. It's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. So,
anyway. And one thing I would want to directly say to Melissa too, again, from the ADHD coach perspective, is to make sure that she's taking care of herself and her ADHD and getting, the support and structures that she needs, just for daily living or whatever it is that she's, that she might be struggling with that transition, getting prepared back to school, whatever that might be, but that she's reaching out and getting that support for herself too, and being able to look at it from that point of view and making sure that, she's taken care of.
Well, and I didn't read some of her backstory around, you mentioned she has ADHD too. Like, her experience was very similar to my own. So I feel like I have a real personal connection there, that experience it is hard. And to your point, man, if you can't, it's like you're on an airplane, they always tell you to put your airbag on before you put your kid's airbag on. Mm-hmm. You got to take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of others. So
that's right.
I love that message. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for writing in. I appreciate you taking the time and that you care about our opinion. That's so nice.
This is so sweet. Yes.
Honored. Yes.
Okay. So here we are. We're talking about project planning for that one project
plan.
One project plan for the one thing you're going to do before summer ends. Where did this come from?
Well, it actually it's a twofold inspiration.
It feels very specific to me. It feels like you have an agenda.
You think? Yeah, I have an agenda. That's for sure. So the first fold of this inspirational topic came from a conversation that I had with a client recently, and they were struggling. They had a lot of things to do on their to-do list, and she felt like she was wasting a lot of time when she had downtime. She didn't feel like she was utilizing it well, and not getting anything done. So here I have so much to do, but I'm wasting time and I'm not getting anything done. And this sounded very familiar to me.
Yeah. Has she climbed into the ho-hos and corn chips yet? Because that's where I go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's a whole nother topic. I haven't had a ho-ho since like high school. That is so funny. Do they even still sell ho-hos?
Are you kidding? It's in the Pete aisle at the grocery store.
That is hilarious.
Just ho-hos and Juanitas. If you know what a Juanita is, you know it's the single best corn chip on the planet.
Well, that's true. I've had that recently because that's real. Those are really good. But
there
ho-hos. That's funny, Pete. Okay. Moving on, because that really threw me for a loop. So I have a couple of home projects that I wanted to get done because the summer is a little bit more of a slow time for me and my business. I don't tend to work as much on side projects. I typically in my summer is just clients, and I just leave it at that. So I have a little bit of extra time to get some home things done. And I kind of feel like this woman, it's like, well, when I do have the extra time, I'm just wasting it, playing games and, just not really doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So part of it was inspiring her, but also inspiring myself. And I'm taking my own advice by just picking one thing and not trying to get everything done, but just choosing one. So that's really where the inspiration came from, is how do you choose just one project and make sure it gets done by the end of the summer? And the end of the summer just felt like a good deadline to me,
Oh yeah. Well, it's a non-arbitrary kind of a transition.
Yeah. It doesn't feel made up.
Right.
Like, how sometimes you make deadlines and sometimes that just doesn't work because it's not really a real deadline.
Absolutely.
But this really does feel like a real deadline because my students that I coach are going to be coming back in August and September. And so my schedule is going to start getting built up again. And so it really is truly a deadline. But I think for other people too, they may have an extra day or two of vacation that they can use. The weather's nice. It's more daylight. It is before school starts. It just feels like a good time right now to focus on one thing. But the key is focusing on one thing.
There you go. There you go. That's the ADHD lesson.
Yes. So, look at your projects. What is it that would mean the most to you? And I think that when we try, I guess going back a little bit of why we want to just pick one thing is when we try to do more than one, the multitasking definitely leads to unfinished projects. And then that's just more frustrating because then you have a lot of unfinished stuff that you have to do. So choose something that is really important enough that it matters to you to get it done. Like it has to really mean something. Pick something that you're not going to feel guilty about with other projects. And what I mean by that is you don't want it to compete with something else. Like you got to choose that one that it doesn't matter if you have this other thing you have to do. This one is still most important. And really making it the priority and go into it thinking, okay, this is a start. There's a start to this and there's a finish to this. And you're on that journey, that mindset of I'm going to get this done. And, it's hard for me to talk about that mindset, because I don't mean to just say, oh, just do it. It's not that simple. And I understand that, but it is shifting, I guess, the determination of getting it done or the drive. Does that make sense? Like, when you're at the point, and Pete and I both have been at that point where, okay, enough is enough. I have to lose the weight.
Yeah.
And it's just like something shifts. where it's just not a choice anymore. And that's kind of where I would want you to go with this project. Like, you have to look at it that this just has to get done and I got to make it a priority. Does that make sense?
I think it's really hard because when we get to these dog days of summer, right, it's hard to find the hook. What is it that is going to help you make that transition from, oh my God, I know this is on my need to do someday list, to, oh my God, I have to make a change in my life. I have to finish this thing before summer ends. I have to finish this thing before my schedule change is going to be forced upon me. I have to finish this thing before transition hits. And I think that's really hard to do. For me, it comes down to something we've talked about anytime we talk about project management or project planning, it comes down to figuring out the one smallest first step that you can take, breaking down the project into its smallest units, atomic units. What is the one thing you can get done in 5 minutes on this project that will cause you to push the boulder down the hill a little bit? You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Just build up a little bit of momentum so you can start feeling that iterative success, right? The thing that, oh, you know what? This isn't as hard as I thought.
I agree. I think starting small, like you're saying, like that smallest step is definitely going to help you break through and give you that hook. And what I'm going to talk about in just a second is, for me, it's the intentional planning of it.
Right.
And being really intentional about when I'm going to do it and following through. So there's got to be a little bit of accountability there probably to help you. Especially if it's something that you don't really want to do. It definitely helps to know that somebody else is sort of helping you get through that, so you're not by yourself.
Right.
But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think everybody that's listening has to kind of find what that hook is. Like, how are you going to do it? Because otherwise it will just still, be undone.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, it's it's my bursitis in my heels, right?
Right.
Oh, I know that I have had too many of the ho-hos and the Juanitas because my joints hurt. And that is a sign that I have to fix something. Yeah. And so it's really easy for me to hit that point of, I'm going to change things in my life because I am physically impacted. When it's something like, I need to get the garage.
Yeah. It's very different.
How is that possible that we would both be thinking about that?
I don't know.
How is that possible? Anyway,
I don't know how it's
Go
possible.
ahead.
But that's a good distinction, is that, of course, your health and like we said, organizing a garage are two different things. And the mind shift is probably going to be different, but you still do have to have that hook. And I think you have a really good point of what's going to get you to move forward. And I think what's really great about this is if you can complete this, like if you get it done, then you're going to feel that success, and that is going to lead to more success. So you're going to catch that momentum and want to keep going. It's going to increase your self-confidence and squash that limiting belief that you think that you can't get things done. Like, you can. Look, I did it. I got this done. So there's a lot of benefits of this too, from completing it.
I love that. And I love the feeling that comes with it. It's that spark. And you know what strikes me as we're talking about this? One of the nice outcomes of breaking down the work into the smallest atomic unit and achieving something, anything, even if it's to the untrained eye, a thing that is inconsequential. The benefit is you're building up your stamina for the project that you don't want to do. And the next time you tackle something, because you felt that success, you're not going to devote 5 minutes to it. You might devote 8. You might devote 10. Every time you attack this project, it'll be something that you have a little bit more momentum and stamina to take on.
Okay, so what's the challenge here then, right? How are you going to do this? You got to choose your project.
Yeah. Now, is this is this a toleration kind of project? When you're thinking about this, is this something that's on your list that you don't want to do, or how are you defining it?
I think it's whatever, however it resonates to the listener, however it resonates to you or to me, there's no right or wrong project to choose. So I think it could be a toleration. It could be a bigger organizing project. It could be a space that you want to have organized. Maybe it's your email. I just talked to somebody yesterday about clearing up their inbox, and that's their project that they want to do. Is they want to delete their inbox and manage that better and get it organized, and we spent the whole session talking about how to do that. So that's their project. So I think it could be anything, really.
I love it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I think again, you pick something that matters to you. You pick something that has that hopefully will have the most impact on you and maybe other people that you live with. As far as like helping you decide what that project is, are there real deadlines approaching is always an easy way to prioritize.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really my first go-to is, do you have a real deadline? What do you have time to do? You want to think about that when you're choosing your project. If you only have a couple weeks until your schedule changes or until your kids go back to school or, that real deadline is only a couple weeks, you got to figure out what do you really have time to do? What do you want to do? Those are kind of the things that you want to start thinking about. And then once you have that project done, sit down, brainstorm your tasks and think about, what are those small steps that you can get started right away and start really feeling that accomplishment and success like you were talking about.
Well, how do you do it? Like, what is your literal process? Like your the tools that you employ when you're doing this kind of a thing? You want to walk through that briefly?
Yeah, that's a great idea. You know what I would do for me? The garage got brought up, and that is definitely a sore spot. Always has been in my house. But it is because now that, fall is going to be coming, I want our cars in the garage. And, I think for me, what I would do, it's kind of hard because I'm an expert at organizing. So I don't necessarily need to write down or brainstorm the tasks that I need to do because I kind of just do them. But if I didn't know how to organize that space, I would probably just take a pad and paper, honestly, and just start thinking, okay, what do I want to do in this space? Like, what do I need to do to get this project done? Well, I've got to sort. I got to make sure I purge and get everything out of the garage. And then once all of that stuff is out, then I'm going to decide how I want to organize it and what I want to keep. And I've been really thinking about kind of that minimalist approach, like if I really don't need it, then I'm going to get rid of it. Like why is it taking the space up? It's just making me mad.
Yeah.
And I think I would just start writing down like my plan. How do I want to attack this? Am I going to start on one wall and go around the garage, or how am I going to do that? So I think that's what I would do. I'm going to go back to the email project that I worked with yesterday. What we did is we just sat down and looked at, okay, well, how many emails does she have? What's her current system? What were the roadblocks that she had with deleting? And so we talked all that out. And so you can do this with a partner. You don't have to do it by yourself. But if you've got a project that has multiple tasks, get those down on paper so you have an idea of what to do next.
Yeah, right. I really, that's where I start on these things because I find it so important for me to paint a picture of what the ideal outcome is. You know what I mean? So if I can't sit down and I try to do it in a sentence, but a couple of sentences say, okay, I have this thing I need to do. I know I need to do it. I have a sense of what it is in my head. I'm going to write it out clearly. What is the thing going to look like when it's finished? I want to organize my garage to the point that I can comfortably get the cars in and out and have enough space to walk around them when we get in and out of the cars. Because
have you been in my garage?
I'm honestly thinking about my own, although we do park our cars in the garage. That second part is very difficult. Our garage is
it's
not
hard
huge.
To get in and out and not hit like a lawnmower or
right.
something.
It's really hard. And so it's one of those things that outcome, painting the picture of that outcome helps me build motivation because I'm remembering this is not just I want a clean garage because there's somebody says I should have a clean garage. It's I want a clean garage specifically because it's going to change my life. And here's how. It's going to change the way I get in and out of my car. It's going to help me protect this investment in my car over the season when the weather is inclement. Like, this is how my life is going to change. And if I don't have that, sometimes it's tough to build that momentum, to push that boulder, to give it that first push off the mountain.
I think you do need to have it. I agree. I mean, I think that's with anything. You got to have that vision of what you're going for. Like, what is it that you want to accomplish and why do you want to accomplish it? Otherwise, it won't get done. I mean, it will will just stay being avoided. Like, you'll just keep avoiding it and avoiding it. So I agree. Yeah. I think that that's really an important step.
Well, and the project management folks out there will know. I mean, this is a cost, schedule, and performance variable. And if you can state your paragraph in CSP, I want to clean out my garage so that I can park the cars in the garage and have room to walk around the cars by a certain period, a certain time, say September 30th, within a cost of how many hours and dollars you're willing to spend on this. Then you're really turning it into a project, and that's the official kind of put it in terms of CSP, and you'll really see what your impact is going to be on your garage and what the garage impact will be on you.
Do you have anything on the show that you could put on the show notes that has that like outline? Because that's a good little like kind of template for
I certainly can mock something up. I think we can put something together. If it's not there as soon as the show goes out, it'll be there soon. We'll post it on Facebook too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Sure.
Well, and then something that I mentioned earlier is the intentional planning. And this is the kicker for me. Like, if I want to get something done, I have to be intentional about it. Otherwise, it just won't ever get done. And that's, I think, the last piece here. Well, I guess it's the second to the last piece of being successful is, really deciding what you're willing to commit to. And then schedule it into your calendar and make them appointments, make that commitment. Don't let it compete with other things. And gate the time, right? We've talked about gating, and this is where it's really important that you gate that and that you don't look at it as a burden, but like this is a tool that you're using. You're gating this time so that you have it to get your project done, and that's a really positive thing. It's not negative; it's positive.
Yes.
To me, that's what makes everything get done in my house is just being more intentional about it.
Use that
Otherwise,
calendar.
I forget.
Yeah, totally.
You forget.
Totally.
I mean, you see things and you just keep seeing them, and then all of a sudden it reminds you, oh, that bugs me. But if I don't actually plan to get it done, it doesn't get done.
I love that.
The intentional planning is definitely something to think about. And then again, we talked about how to be held accountable. And I think this is important for people that are having a hard time doing it on their own. There's no shame in asking somebody to help you or to check in with someone and say, hey, this is something I'm working on. Do you mind being my partner with it? In return, be their partner with something that they're struggling with. But it really helps to have that person checking in on you and maybe helping you if you need it. But that accountability is really important.
Huge.
As we've said many times.
Right.
In a lot of different facets of life. And then I would say keep paying attention to this project because again, it's easy to forget. So have those reminders set up. Check your calendar every day, which I hope you're already doing.
Set a reminder to check your calendar every day.
Set your reminder to check your calendar. Yeah, that's right. Have the notifications, before you're going into your work session, whatever it is that you're working on, but just really keep paying attention to it. Keep it in front of you. Because again, out of sight is out of mind. For most of us. And so It's important that we keep that stuff in front of us and then celebrate, this is big. You accomplished a project by your deadline. And, I would say celebrate along the way, celebrate little milestones of getting started and getting halfway done and then finishing it. And really the reward isn't necessarily like a material thing. The reward is that you finished it. You squashed a limiting belief. You squashed a toleration that's been bugging you. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel lighter. You're going to, just have more joy. And that's what we're all striving for. So, the reward is that, just getting this stuff done and taking care of business.
It's huge.
I guess. But yeah, so my challenge to everybody listening is to choose that project. Let us know what it is. If you want us to be your accountability partner, hey, put it on Facebook and we'll check in with you.
We'll check in with you. We'll check in with you on the show. We'll shout out your name on the show. There's nothing like that.
I know, right?
Yeah. That's perfect.
So It's great. And then I just wanted to talk real briefly about intentional planning is something that I talk a lot about in my time course. And so I want to encourage people, if you are looking for ways on how to organize your time with ADHD, with intentional planning, how to match that to-do list with your calendar, all of those things, please check out that online course. It is not a clever name. It is just organizing time with ADHD.
Therefore, you cannot miss it.
You can't miss it. But it's on the website, and I have other courses to check out too. If your project happens to be organizing paper or organizing space, I recommend that you check those out as well. So that's my pitch for the day.
I love it. I'm going to go figure out what my project is for the rest of the summer. And it's going to start with editing this very podcast. How about that? Yes. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We absolutely appreciate your time and attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.